Welcome to the Daily MBA, where business wisdom is served fresh and fast, straight from one of the top MBA programs in the world. I'll give you summaries of my lectures and readings, as well as the most important insights gained from an MBA, so you can apply all of this knowledge in every business. Let's get started. I am Maria Gomez, and today I have the honor to interview Yaghi, CTO and co-founder of Baselane. Jam and his team are revolutionizing the banking and real estate industry, helping landlords have tailored financial services, automated tools, and actionable data to save time, increase returns, and grow their investment portfolios. Before Baselane, Jad created multiple tech startups, including Verold, that provided a cheaper and easier way of building 3D VR and AR experiences on web browsers, and was later acquired by Box. Later, he created Project Beagle, which developed next generation automated ERP systems for the tourism industry and was later acquired by FTI. As you can see, Jad brings in a lot of experience and knowledge, and we are very happy to have you on our show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, so before we start, I want you to tell us a little bit more about Baselane.
Yeah, sure. So Baselane basically is a banking and financial management platform focused on independent landlords, or as sometimes they're called, mom and pop landlords, or real estate investors. We automate everything surrounding the financial management aspect of home ownership, from bookkeeping, banking, reporting and analytics, rent collection. And we integrate everything together so that we can save a lot of time on the financial management of home ownership and rental, and help save the landlord's money as well in the process.
Okay, that's very good. And now that you were saying all of the things that you do, I want to highlight to all of our listeners that you're technically not a bank, but you're doing all of these things that involve technology around landlords. So, as you said, bookkeeping, analytics. And so it seems that your value is more in the software that you're providing, not in the financial services per se. So, why did you choose this business model, and how do you think it is creating this value for the landowners that are in
Yeah,
the market?
absolutely. We do provide banking services. It's you're right in that we don't have a banking license, but we are built on top of a partner bank. So landlords can one click create bank accounts with us. Then they can also with single clicks create sub accounts for all those accounts. So we do provide full banking services to the independent landlord. The biggest reason, and I think the biggest value we add, is we bring all that financial management into one place. Like, a landlord can come in. As a landlord, you are going to have to create multiple bank accounts to manage your property. You probably want a bank account for every unit that you're renting, probably possibly even for every tenant that you're renting out for. You want a bank account for every security deposit, maybe even for the last check, that are separate. So that suddenly, just even one home renting it out, you have anywhere between 5 and 10 bank accounts that you need to open. So we seamlessly provide all that services, and all those bank accounts are connected directly with our bookkeeping and analytics tools. So as rent comes into the bank account, again with our partner bank, comes in, we can tag it, and automatically, and the user can see their both money in and money out as they pay their vendors. And I guess the value of the software here is, again, bringing it all in one place. Traditionally, investors and landlords needed to do check collection in one place, check deposit in another, needed to do their analytics either in Excel or download to and integrate with an accounting tool. They need to have their receipts in a shoebox, and then package all of that together and take it to their accountant. So that's just half of the picture. The other half is they need to pay their vendors, they need to choose insurance, they need to choose the right mortgage lender, and there's also little things that they need to make sure are being done to maintain the property. So, and those were each done in a separate area as well. So our value in our from a software point of view is we can integrate to all these partners. We can integrate to a partner bank. We can integrate to the accounting stacks. We can integrate with all the bank connections. If a landlord has a bank connection outside of Baselane, we connect through Plaid. We do the rent collection through Stripe. So we integrate all these various pieces into one place, so that the independent landlord just will log into one platform, see everything from a financial management point of view in front of them.
Okay. I find a lot of value in what you're saying, all of this integrations, because this is simplifying the entire process for landlords, as you're mentioning. It was a nightmare, but Baselane is showing this new way of recollecting the money and having everything just in one software.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to highlight I was browsing through Baselane and I saw that you provide all of these integrations initially at zero cost for landowners. So, can you explain a little bit more about the pricing of Baselane and how does it work?
Absolutely. So full disclosure, we are working on how to continue to monetize this, but we are already making, positive margin off each user. And it's very simple. Since we act as a bank and we hold people's deposits, we hold their rent collection. Some landlords deposit their down payment for their homes and stuff like that. We collect an interest and we don't pass on that entire interest to our users. So that difference, that spread, is basically a big chunk of our revenue. The other piece of our revenue is because independent landlords come and do everything on our platform. We have a lot of partnerships with insurance. For example, they can come see better priced insurance. So if they buy insurance through us, we also get a cut of that revenue as well. But going forward, we're going to continue to derive the vast majority of revenue from those two things, from partnerships and from the spread on deposits.
Great. And I know that also moving forward, you're saying that you may have some new features such as tenant screening and messaging inside the platform. So, how do you think this ones would also add up to this value creation from the integration software?
Yeah, I mean, again, if you look back at the pain point of the landlord is there's so much that needs to be done from a financial management point of view. And if we continue to bring all of these things in house, so if you look at being able to screen a tenant to figure out whether this tenant is going to be a good tenant or not, being able to bring that into our platform as opposed to the landlord doing everything from a financial management point of view with Baselane, then going to another and discovering another tenant screening tool and then bringing that back in. So again, are as many integrations as we can bring in house that tackle that problem of financial management, that's going to continue being our focus to save that landlord time and money.
Great. And I was asking specifically on this tenant screening because I think this is a great idea. And you're not only addressing this pain point for landlords, but also for the tenants that are trying to be renting out a place or maybe buy a place and they're struggling, especially in the Toronto market or Canadian market where many are immigrants. So, like firsthand, when I was renting a house here, I arrived and I had zero credibility in this new country. So, I believe this tenant screening would also be addressing like the tenant pain points as well. Have you ever thought of also selling or maybe monetizing this product with tenants?
Yeah, that's a great question, and this is one of the reasons why I started Baselane. I was a new immigrant to this country as well at some point, and the only way I could get a rented apartment was to get an older established friend to co-sign for me. There's all sorts of pain points like this everywhere. And even if we look at how tenant screening is done today, it's very inefficient. It's very time consuming. It could take weeks. You're asking for references, you're asking for credit checks, you're asking for this and that, and none of them, or very few of them, are actually indicative whether somebody's going to be a good tenant or not. Really, one of the biggest indicators somebody's going to be a good tenant or not is, have they paid their rent in the past on time? Now, landlords don't have access to a lot of that because there's not a lot of tenant credit reporting. Has tenant paid rent on time or not? But because we already have some of these tenant profiles in our system, we can tell a landlord very quickly if a tenant is going to be a good tenant or not. And we can also do the inverse, which is really important as well. We can tell a tenant if somebody's going to be a good landlord or not. Has this landlord paid maintenance on their properties? Have they been maintaining their property? Have they, increased their prices suddenly out of nowhere? So all of these data points is really where the future of Baselane is headed. Is being able to look, to predict, to find out whether someone is, you know, as simple as answering the question, is this going to be a good tenant or not, without having to go and call their references. Being able to find out if this person is going to be a good landlord or not without having to again, go through whatever hoops you need to go through. But there's also bigger questions that can be asked of the data. For example, this is something I struggled with myself with a lot, and I still don't know a good way to answer it. But if I renovate, let's say, the kitchen, and or if I renovate my home or my investment property, what will be my rate of return? Being able to do that math, it, it's you need great Excel skills for sure. You need to have an accounting background. You need to understand so many details, and it takes a lot of work, and you're probably going to be wrong. So we want what we're trying to do with Baselane is, with all the data we're collecting, is reach a point where a landlord can ask a simple question: is this going to be a good tenant, or how can I improve the return of my investment? And it could be an easy answer as, hey, why don't you renovate your kitchen? You can attract a better class of tenant. Here's what your return rate is going to be. And by the way, here's a lender who can approve this, who can loan you the money for this refinance. And here's a bunch of contractors who can do it for you. So that's the vision we're trying to go with what we're building at Baselane. All data-driven decision making.
How long have these meal kits been in my fridge? 1 week? 2? How much am I spending on these? Hey, Erica, did my subscription go up?
When your questions about life turn into questions about money, there's Erica, the virtual financial assistant to help you spend, save, and plan smarter. Only from Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
That sounds very exciting. And this leads me up to my next point, and it's, since you're collecting all of this data, and especially it's financial data,
Mhm.
how do you manage, since you're the CTO, to get this sensitive nature and ensure the security of the privacy of the user data from both ends?
Yeah, the easiest way to manage security is go find somebody who does it better than you and specializes in it. So what we do is we work with another partner, and they're basically a data vault. We don't touch and store any PII on our system. So any PII that's collected from the end user is immediately routed to that third party vault, and the third party vault sends us back a token. So we store the token. So if for whatever reason our systems were completely compromised, because we're a small company, we can't afford a big security footprint. If we get compromised, all the thieves will, or all the cyber attackers will be able to get is a tokenized access to that PII, which is basically useless. So we use a third party service that can afford massive security because they do it at scale, and we store all PII there, and we just tokenize all that data.
Mhm. Whoa. So that's a clever way of doing it, relying on people who already are experts on that. And from everything that I'm hearing from you, I see that you're doing lots of partnerships. And I'm guessing this is also a tough process to get these partners, especially in an initial step. So, how did you manage to do all of these partnerships, starting from that data company, also to the insurance one, the banking one? How was this partnership process?
Yeah, we one of our very early key senior hires was an awesome guy called Saad, who was leading partnerships at Plaid, and we poached him early on, and because we realized very quickly from the inception that, as you mentioned, a lot of our work is going to be dependent on partners that we're bringing together. A lot of our software is just integrating a lot of pieces together and putting it in a nice UI in front of the user. So we have an awesome partnership teams that we heavily invested in from day zero to go find all these partners for us.
Okay. And the other part that you're talking about would be putting it pretty for the user. Have you also followed any specific design process in order to build this platform, let's say user centric?
Yeah, design. I mean, if there's one thing about our approach to product development, I'd say it's design first. We always start from the design. We test it with a lot of users who are really fanatic about our platform. Our CEO as well and our co-founders were all fanatics about the design stage of it. So we've heavily invested in being a design first company. So before we write a single line of code, we are pretty confident that this is what we want to do. This is what it will do. This is the value it'll add. This is how the clean design will look like and stuff like that. And we iterate pretty quickly. We have a really, I'd say, mature data process in terms of capturing user engagement, user interaction. looking at where drop off rates are, and then iterating on the designs to make sure that we continue to basically build something that's user first.
Hmm. Okay. And I've known from your LinkedIn that one of your main abilities, as you call it, is failing fast. And
Mhm.
it's related to this prototyping state of ideas. Do you think that you've been perfectioning this throughout all of your startups, or is it something that you've always been good at?
No, it's something I learned the hard way, right? I used to be an engineer's engineer, meaning I used to write code based off of what I thought users will want. And as an engineer in a small company or even a big one, you can get away with that. But one of the first companies I started, I realized very quickly that I'm failing pretty fast and everything I'm doing is useless. And then I started opening my eyes and I saw a lot of engineers also write code that way. So now, through a lot of hard lessons, through a lot of wasted money, I guess, and time, I've reached a point and in my thinking that I'll never write a line of code until I'm pretty confident that this is something that users want, not just something I want. And again, we go back to the data-driven approach. Like, okay, great, we'll build a first something. We'll see how users interact with it, how users engage with it. We'll use that data to then improve it. And I think pushing the product and pushing the thinking to failure first, you want to find basically the gist of it is you want to find the mistakes before your users find them for you. Because users, especially in a crowded market, are very unforgiving. If they don't like your product and they churn out, very unlikely you're going to win them back. So I'd rather that we build the method and the methodology and the process to find mistakes before our users find them. Yeah, it was a very painful lesson over that took maybe a decade to learn properly.
And this may sound ambiguous, but how do you manage to find those mistakes? Is it through common like glitches that you're having with the product, or is it through the customer support that you're giving, or how can you receive this feedback from users?
Yeah, it's through all of the above, right? Like, we have a rigorous QA process, but more importantly, and I think the best way to find things is to observe the data, right? So we tag events on pretty much everything. So if a user logs in and clicks the login button, it fires a login event. If the user then goes and adds a property, it fires a property event. If a user connects a bank account, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then we build a user journey. Like, okay, 100 users signed in, 90 of those created a bank and created a property, 80 of those connected a bank, now 20 of those collected rent. Why is that big drop off from 80 to 20? Something's going on. So now we have our first clue to where the mistakes are, right? So now we can go use other tools such as session logging to go and view what users are doing. We can start using other data collection tools to pretty much dig in and zero in. Okay, and now we can build on what's going on. Now we can build hypotheses. Oh, I think this is happening. And then somebody else says, oh, I think that's happening. And now the next step of the rigor is to build all sorts of experiments. So let's say we have three winning ideas. We go and build three iterations of this very quickly, very cheaply. And we go test these three iterations. And, A B testing, basically. And we see that experiment A, experiment B, experiment C, experiment A wins. Okay, great. This is what's going on. Now we can bring it back into the product. And we keep doing that for every single feature we launch. And that data driven slash, experimentation focused thinking, I think is very critical in building a really good product that has stickiness.
And are you using AI for any of this process related to data analysis in your company?
Not yet. I don't think we're at the scale to do that. We barely took off last year, so we're about 20,000 users at this point, which doesn't give you the scale to really build a lot of ML processes. But that's going to be part of the big investment this year and next year in our product development.
Sounds exciting. And now I want to go on to another topic that I wanted to ask you about, and it's around the team.
Mhm.
Because every product that has great technology has probably a very powerful team that's behind the technology. So, how have you managed to find and retain the right people in a team, especially in a team that's growing and it's starting?
Yeah. The majority of the engineering and product team are people I worked with in the past, or people who worked with people I worked with in the past. I'd say about 80% of them are people I worked with directly or are in my network. I think that's one of the, a good reference is one of the most powerful indications of how you're going to get together as a team. So that has helped. As we continue to scale, being able to hire and retain good people becomes critical. And I'd say that's probably half my job. So the first thing is I'm always the first point of contact to anybody coming onto the engineering or product team. And that's super important for me. You know, I always want them to be met by the CTO to realize this is critical. This job's critical. You are critical. Also helps me protect the team's time because I can very quickly sense if somebody's going to be a good fit or not. But there's all sorts of little tricks on finding and retaining people there. But being the first contact is has always served me well. Retaining people, I mean, it's really simple. Treat them nice and pay them well. There's no secret to it. Happy developers are great developers. Contrary to whatever HR BS is out there, happy people don't leave. Or if they do, they leave for good reasons. We've only had one person leave in the last 4 years off the engineering team, and he left for a great reason. We couldn't continue challenging them enough, which is, in my book, a perfect reason to leave. But people leaving for because they don't like the process, hopefully that will never happen. But again, it boils down to treat people well with respect, give them good processes and autonomy over their work, and pay them well. And that's how you retain great people.
Hmm. And are you currently now with fully remote, or are you having a hybrid approach?
So it's neither hybrid nor fully remote. The way I would we have teams in four countries basically. The engineering team is spread across four countries. And the so it can't work except remote. But we do have an office in the sense that if people want to come to the office, they're welcome to. I know some developers on my team, they were begging me a year or two ago, like, hey, can we please have an office? I cannot work at home all day long. So that's the primary reason we have the office is because people want it. And if they want to go to the office, good for them. If they don't want to go to the office, good for them. I do sometimes meet my senior team for whiteboarding or doing some architectural stuff that needs a whiteboard. It's just slightly more efficient in person. So we are absolutely remote first, but really at the core of it is we're productivity first. Whatever makes and helps people be more productive, go for it. If coming to an office makes you productive, go to an office. If working at home makes you more productive, work at home. If you want a mix of the two, that option is also open.
That's a great mission. And I'm sure, like, from everything that I'm hearing, that the culture that you're creating sounds like a great place to work. So, just for wrapping it up, I have some questions about upcoming trends that you're probably seeing. So, first, what should be one trend that we should all be following in the financial industry?
In the financial industry, well, definitely ML and the impact of machine learning on fintech. I mean, that's absolutely, I think, what's on everybody's mind nowadays. It's still a big unknown. There's still a lot of confusion with what ML and AI really is and what it can really do. There's a lot of hot air and a lot of noise. So it's going to be interesting to see where that settles. And I'd say probably the next big thing is embedded finance, where being able to integrate tons of tiny financial tools here and there will be helpful. Like, for example, in our case, being able to pay later, your rent later, or pay your rent, instead of, the landlord collects it monthly, but you want to pay it weekly, and having some embedded finance tool that allows you to do that. I think we're going to continue seeing that trend in all fintech products.
For sure. And the last question, it's also about real estate industry, which is where you are, or financial industry. Which problem are you currently seeing right now that you think someone should address?
Hmm. Interesting. Which problem in fintech or prop tech that somebody should address? My nose is always to the problems I'm addressing. So one of the biggest trends that's coming in property tech is I guess what they call the silver wave, right? Where a lot of boomers are retiring, and is that a bad word, boomers, or not? I can't tell. But anyway, older people are retiring, and they're handing off their properties and their investment properties to a younger generation, and that younger generation either is doesn't have the tools or the experience to know what to do with it. So I think that will be a fertile ground for somebody to come in and think of how they can help that property transition between the older generation to a younger generation. I think that for sure. I mean, what is the impact on home prices? What is the impact on the rental market? What is the impact going to look like? I don't know, on the mechanism of transfer, title stuff. There's all sorts of little details that go in there. And if it happens just once, 1% of that happening, that's fine. But this is going to happen on a huge scale. And a lot of older generation have been using their homes as equity, and banks, their kids may not have known about it. So suddenly this younger generation is expecting to get a lot of equity, and suddenly they don't. So being able to maybe understand the equity in your home before that transfer happens, these are all sorts of problems that I think somebody smart should be thinking about in terms of prop tech.
Thank you very much, Jed. It was a pleasure having you. And I'm going to leave in the description all of the links that will redirect people to Baselane so they can get to know you and your company better. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're doing great work here. Thank you.